Good evening, everyone. We'll call to order the meeting for Oak Island Town Hall public hearing regular meeting, January 9th, 2018. Is now called to order. It's great seeing everybody. I'm glad everybody got through the ice. And Happy New Year, 2018. It's our first meeting of the season. It's good to see everyone out. Turn to Councilman Blaylock for invocation and pledge of allegiance to him, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather together here at the beginning of the year, we ask your blessing. Grant us the wisdom and the foresight to do what is right for the town, what is right for the citizens, and bring us together in a sense of kindness and understanding. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Blaylock. We'll start our meeting tonight with our first public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments or proposed amendments to the town charter. Madam Clerk, do we have any?
I do not have anybody signed up.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing number 1.
So moved.
Second. Second by Chad. All in favor? Thank you. Public hearing number 2. The proposed...
Madam Mayor,
I'm sorry.
Whoa.
can you take action on public hearing 1, please?
I'm sorry. I skipped that in. We can take action on it tonight. We can ask the staff to direct it to be set forth in February's meeting for adoption.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to place the proposed charter amendments on the February 13th, 2018 council agenda for consideration.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please. All right, thank you.
And if I could just note, we have sent the other charter amendments into Representative Eiler's office as well.
Madam Mayor, may I make a question, please? So at the last meeting during the vote of intent, question of residency came up, and I'd like to say that I think the residency requirement for the town manager is archaic and deprives us of the recruiting pool that we eventually would seek down the road. But I do think that it's important to know that there is an emergency protocol in place. And so my question for Mr. Kelly is there in fact an emergency protocol in place to manage a crisis in the event you are not physically present on the island?
Yes. What we currently operate is under NIMS. And basically, if a situation comes up, the fire chief or the police chief or the assistant chief, they call. They inform me of the situation that's happened on the island or anything that is coming up. Also that we are in touch with the county. If anything comes across that, they send out notifications to us of upcoming events or any kind of weather conditions or any kind of advisories. Once that's established, then we reach back out to staff and notify staff, anybody that appropriately that needed. We also notify council members as everything is going on. Whoever the incident commander is at that point, the managers do not relieve them of that. They stay as the incident commander through the whole project. And all we do is we're there to give the services and render assistance as needed.
And is this protocol reduced to writing?
Portions of it are, and basically is within each person's or each department's field. Utilities has one, Public Works has one, Police Department follows theirs, and the Fire Department follows their protocol.
And would it be fair to say in the recent incident on the bridge that the protocols worked effectively and the interagency cooperation was maximized?
Yes. The county, the chief contacted other services as he needed them. The fire department contacted anybody that they needed. Services were rendered by other departments. And yes, I do believe that everything worked effectively.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Kelly? On that same note, I will make the statement that I was present during the time of the accident on the follow-up on the on the bridge. Firsthand witnessed all our staff staying there for how many hours did you end up? 8 hours, David? I was there for probably 4 of those hours. I don't know how it could have went any smoother or any more professionally handled than we did. So apparently, our emergencies protocol is in place and is working.
Yes,
Is
the
that
police
what fair to
department,
say?
yeah, the police department and fire department did a great
Everybody.
job.
Thank you. All right, moving on to public hearing number 2. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear citizens' comments on the proposed amendment to 18-72B and C, and that is commercial driveways. Do we have anyone signed up?
I do not have anyone signed up for this public hearing.
This time I entertain a motion to close public hearing number 2.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. At this time, we can take action on public hearing number 2, or it's open for discussion. Does anyone have any questions?
I do, actually. I note that in the staff submission, there's a reference to issues with potential upcoming planned commercial projects. I'd like to know what those projects are and where they're located, please. Thank you.
The airport, installing a new hangar, and Publix as well, the grocery store. And there's one other one that is eluding me at the moment, but that's what that was in reference to.
Thank you. And if I may, while you're there, Jake, so the planning board statement is interesting, neither endorsing nor opposing, essentially a neutral recommendation back to council. And I wonder if there's been a risk-reward analysis conducted, because larger commercial driveways will clearly mean more traffic, potentially more of a threat to pedestrians, and conceivably could alter the business landscape that we know currently on the island. And I, for one, would like to see that analysis before we move forward with this. Do you have such an analysis?
Not an analysis directly in the specific what you're talking about now. If my memory serves me correctly, planning board recommended, unanimously recommended approval. That we had a few absentee members that weren't present, so it was 4-0.
Well, perhaps I'm misreading. Neither consistent nor inconsistent does not ring as an endorsement to
That
me.
is the plan consistency statement. That is required by state laws, General Statute 168-383. It essentially requires any sort of text amendment or rezoning, any sort of legislative decision, require a plan consistency statement. The land use plan, as you know, doesn't specifically address driveway widths. I scoured it to find something. So in the absence of the land use plan not, saying anything about it, it's okay to have a statement according to the school government that basically says it's consistent or not consistent.
So, but to go, thank you. So there hasn't been a detailed analysis is the answer to my first question, correct?
No, I'm not sure what analysis like that would even look like. I suppose you could run some models of what every single commercial development, if they were maximized, what DOT would allow, what that would look like, maybe?
If we did that on Oak Island Drive, would you have concerns about traffic or pedestrian thoroughfares?
I would not, and the reason I would not is because DOT takes that sort of stuff into consideration. They look at the potential traffic generated, they looked at safety issues as far as the turning radius is concerned, the type of vehicles, if it's a large retailer or something, they're expecting tractor trailers and stuff to deliver goods, that sort of stuff. They have a formula, and they take all that into account when deciding what sort of access for ingress and egress they decide to permit.
And yet our current rules are more restrictive, and therefore we've evolved in a certain way. My concern is that if this is adopted, we may change the landscape. And I'd like to see some modeling done before we say, yes, that's great, let's build bigger driveways for larger commercial trucks.
Modeling is something like that would be well outside of my wheelhouse. We'd potentially have to hire a consulting firm or something like that, but I'm sure there's someone out there that knows how to do that kind of stuff.
Jake, can we not put this on the people who want these water driveways to do that modeling?
No, I mean, they have applied for development permits, and they can be rejected or approved depending on whether or not they're compliant with our land development codes or they're not. But we can't require them to do something above and beyond that, what our ordinance states they have to have in their site plan.
What would this do to Publix or the airport if we didn't approve this?
You would probably see either a variance request going to the Board of Adjustment, or this is a staff-initiated text amendment, so next month you'd see a text amendment application from them, most likely, would be my hunch.
Are we up to standards with DOT right now? Or
No,
we
we are more restrictive, and I believe the reason for that is because our ordinance is greatly outdated.
Okay, any more questions for Jake? At this time, I entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to adopt the proposed amendments to 18-172B and C as presented, and to adopt the associated plan consistency statement.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? We have no presentations, proclamations, or recognitions tonight. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Mayor? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I would like to move new business number 2.
New business number 2?
New business number 2 to the consent agenda, as it's already been addressed by the insurance commissioner. And new business number 3 as back to the consent agenda, because we were already aware of the project and all we need to do is a formal agreement.
Okay, any more adjustments?
Need to add number 6 to closed session.
I'm sorry?
6. A3, you got A3, you need to add 6.
And add 6?
Yeah,
That's personnel.
yeah, personnel.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to remove item 3 from the consent agenda.
Let's see if we got this straight before I ask for approval. You would like to move old business 2 and 3 to the consent agenda?
New business
The
2
new
and
business.
3
Okay. To the consent agenda. And Jeff would like to add number 6 to the closed session, which is personnel. And Councilman Bach would like to move number 3 off this agenda.
Correct.
Everybody got that?
That's automatic.
What's on that?
The consent agenda has to be unanimous. Any one person can pull something off the consent agenda.
Okay, so do we need a motion to adopt it as amended?
Well, understand the amendment will have that dropped. It will have Sheila's added.
And number 3 moved to the, yeah.
Okay. And so number 3 would go under,
Items removed.
Items removed from the consent agenda.
okay. I'd like to have a motion, please, to approve the agenda as amended.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Public comment section.
Cynthia Hamrick? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you are. Please state your name, and we do have a 3-minute time frame, please.
Cynthia Hamrick, and I want everybody to know about the Seabiscuit Wildlife Preserve. How many of you already know? Good. This lady has been working tirelessly to keep this thing going. She has a job at Lowe's on Midway, and she finances this with some donations. I think it's time we, as Oak Island, did this for her instead of her having to work at Lowe's. I have brochures if you want to know about it, more about it. She takes in all the sick birds that people bring her, tries to bring them to health so she can release them again, and some of them she has to put down, and some she finds homes for. If we got $2,000 a month, that's what we need, she wouldn't have to do this job out there at Lowe's to try to keep this thing going. If we as a town don't support her, we've lost a great opportunity. 100 people could agree to pay $20 a month. That would do it. 200 people could pay $10 a month, or any combination. But we could do it if we really care about it, if we want to keep this thing going. It's a great thing that's done in our town, and it would be a shame if we were to lose it. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm asking? Does anybody want one of the brochures to find out more about what she's doing? Okay, raise your hand if you'd like a brochure. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hamrick.
Pete Key.
Good evening, councilors. I have a real quick statement. I've been here before and spoken with you guys 2 years ago on the issue of offshore drilling, and on January 6th of 2017, we won that battle. We brought Oak Island and the eastern seaboard of the United States of America back from the brink of destruction due to offshore drilling and seismic testing. This past week, on January 4th, the administration placed 25 of the 26 offshore zones back into jeopardy. Only Samoa right now stands out of the plan's reach. And I'm asking right now for the councilors to please contact the Brunswick County Commissioners. We stand as one of 2 counties in North Carolina that have a resolution in support of offshore drilling, despite the fact that on the East Coast, 126 municipalities have resolutions against offshore drilling. We have all 13 states on the eastern seaboard. Their governors have issued statements against offshore drilling. We have 41,000 business organizations and over 500,000 fishing families that have said, we don't want drilling off our coast. And yet Brunswick County Commissioners have said, and I quote in a conversation with them, we want to be at the table when oil comes to Brunswick. My response to that is, the deal you make with the devil always comes back to bite you. He's a dishonest and deceitful master. If you look at the Gulf Coast states and what they're going through right now, as the Trump administration has cut their payouts in half. So the money that they were expecting to be able to refurbish their coast and their beaches due to the damage of offshore drilling has been cut in half on the basis of the BP oil spill payouts will take care of it. So we don't want that off our coast. And the reasons why is we don't want the risk here, because our economy is based on pristine beaches and clean water tourism. And when the dead fish, the birds, and the tar balls begin to roll up on our beaches, when the Department of Interior closes our beaches due to bacterial blooms and the water's coated in a chemical sheen of dispersants and well lubricants, as regularly happens in the Texas coast, our home values and our tax base will be reduced, our jobs that are supported by tourism will disappear, and we could never recover from that damage. Because once it's done, it's done. We never get those pristine beaches back. I'm asking the councilors today to call your representatives, call the commission, the people that you know, and ask them next week on their agenda to place it on the agenda to put the resolution opposing offshore drilling and seismic testing. We need this for our communities. We need this for our way of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Key. While we're on that subject, I'd like to ask the staff to send a statement to the county commissioners that we have adopted a resolution back in 2016, just to kind of get it back in front of them that we at Oak Island do oppose offshore drilling and seismic testing. Any more, Lisa?
I'm sorry. Roseanne Fortner.
Thank you, Mr. Key and the Madam Mayor, for those very timely words. You know, as a retiree, I'm Roseanne Fortner. I'm from 113 Paula Circle, and I'm speaking for the Beach Preservation Society. As a retiree, I'm embarrassed to admit You know you're really too busy when a snow day just gets in the way of getting things done. So the Beach Preservation Society is really busy. Here's what's keeping us busy right now. Number one, we are negotiating the purchase of a new vehicle for the beach ambassadors. Our old one came apart. It's no longer beach-worthy. The vehicle has been selected. We're just working out the details of the purchase and maintenance with the town. Second thing that we're doing is beach preservation is 19 years old this year, and we're doing some self-study. Where are we going? Is our path the most efficient one? How can we best serve the town, its beaches, and the beachgoers? So to that end, we're having a public meeting from 9 to noon on January 18th. I announced this last month, but I gave you the wrong date. The date is January 18th, from 9 to noon, at the Water Safety Office here in the town buildings. It is a public meeting. Please come if you're interested in the kinds of things that we do and want to have input into it, or just see how we figure out the things that we're doing. The third thing, our famous and highly anticipated wine tasting and auction fundraiser is coming up. It's going to be on April 21st at Island Way from noon to 2:30. That's a Saturday. Mark your calendar, April 21st, Island Way Restaurant. Tickets will be on sale to members on February 1st. If you want to be one of the ones who gets those tickets on February 1st ahead of the crowd, you need to check your membership status and be ready when you get that letter. If any tickets are left after members gobble them up, we'll sell them on the public sale starting March 15th. Don't miss your chance. Finally, you can keep up with us most easily by checking in regularly to our Facebook page, Oak Island Beach Preservation Society. Both like it and follow it, so things will come up as we announce things regularly, more regularly than we can through other venues. So please check us out on Facebook. We hope to be seeing you there and answering your questions and taking your comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have signed up.
That it? Okay. Council reports at this time.
No report, Madam
Start
Mayor.
with the senior member, Mr. Councilman Weinkoff.
No report.
No report?
No report.
I'd just like to say that a couple of weeks ago, we lost Dr. Cynthia Beck, and I don't know if you're aware of that or not. She died in a house fire. Sylvia Beck. And, I'd just like to say that she will be missed. She was certainly a force to be reckoned with on different occasions and at the Parks and Recreation area. And she was a friend of mine, and she will be missed. That's all I have to say.
It's hard to follow that one, Scotty. She will be missed. Also, I wanted to, let's see, the mayor's already reiterated about the no drill policy resolution that we've done. I do want to thank staff, especially our fire, rescue, police, utilities, our manager during the recent storm. I am not a fan of cold, and I'm really glad it's over.
Councilman Bach?
I have a point of information, Madam Mayor. I know that prior to taking the oath, you appointed 2 council subcommittees to work on the pier, one for a business plan, one for marketing. I wonder if you could share more details about the process, the timelines, and what we might expect going forward in terms of planning for the pier. And my specific interest in the question is, even though we were extremely successful, thanks in part to your effort and the effort of other council members in getting grants, we still will have a cost of approximately $40,000, and we will anticipate, of course, going forward, maintenance costs. So the business plan is of particular interest in how that will be developed. Can you comment on that for us?
I'm really not sure what you're referencing.
The business plan that the council subcommittee is working on.
It's
Kind
what
of
we're getting ready to,
$40,000 he
We're gonna-
talking about?
that's what we're getting ready to start. We haven't got that plan
haven't
together
even
yet. That's
had a
what we're
meeting
getting ready to start.
Okay, so,
We will bring it back to the entire council and to the public.
Oh,
when
yeah.
we've sat
Okay,
down and had
so-
that.
Yeah.
Okay?
We have had one meeting with Councilman Weinkoff.
I don't know where the 40,000's coming from. Can you clarify that?
I believe there's an actual cost to us for the pier, is that not correct?
There was an estimated cost that we would spend, but with the monies that we have and the bid that price came in, I don't think that we will have to utilize town funds.
There'll be no town funds utilized.
I do not believe so.
Fair
Unless
enough, I'll
something has
amend then.
changed.
So the issue would be maintenance costs we would anticipate going forward.
Yes.
And there's been a meeting, but it's still,
Yes, there's been a meeting, the second meeting with the group is on Friday to discuss it again, and then Councilman Scott and Councilman Bale are setting up a time to start theirs on the marketing
Yours
side.
will be on the 12th, next Monday.
I think so.
I got it somewhere.
so my question goes to process, and you're at the beginning of it.
We're at the beginning of the process. What we did is we took a walk around the restaurant and looked around and see what kind of repairs may be needed and to get a general idea what we might want to do to try to move forward. And then this Friday, we're going to sit down and start looking at ways we can move forward with this process and getting everything up to where it should be.
Fair enough, I'll await your report. Thank you.
Yeah, and as it develops, it will be brought to the council and to
yeah.
the public. Okay, my report is no report except to say, Dr. Beck, I know you're looking down at us today because you never missed a meeting. I truly miss you. There wasn't a week that didn't go by when the market was in season. I didn't get an update on how the market did that week. In fact, most of my messages were 15 minutes long, and she said, don't call me back, I just want you to know. She was a personal friend. I will miss her. Also like to say thank you to those citizens that took the time to reach out to the Insurance Commissioner, Mike Causey, with your objections to the extremely high rate that the Rate Bureau asked for. I think for our area, it would have been 25 to 40% higher. A lot of people didn't realize that the rentals would have been 40 and the homeowners would have been 25. He did reject that. It will go to a hearing on June the 23rd. I plan to be at that hearing. I don't know how many council members plan to go with me. All the mayors in Brunswick County fought this very hard. We even had the county fighting with us. We sent letters, we called, and a lot of citizens apparently got like 9,000 letters of people that were opposed, and all the big coastal towns fought it really hard. We don't know what will happen on the 23rd. It'll be up to if they can negotiate a rate or if they can make a settlement before it can go to court, and then it can go to the Supreme Court. So we're still got a battle ahead. I just want the public to know and the council to know that we are on top of it and we're watching it closely. If there's anything it can be done to keep it where we can afford it and keep it down, we're going to be there knocking on their door to do it. One more thing I'd like to take care of. I realized the other day that we need a liaison for the Par 3, which we have met with Par 3 POA at South Harbor several times. We are in continued communication. They're working very hard with the council to try to come to make it more revenue producing, and I have to say I've been impressed with how well we've all worked together and came to the table. Our membership is up. I'm not sure those exact numbers.
I think
David, you
they
may
added
remember.
35 new.
35 new members since last July, which is pretty impressive. That tells you everybody's trying to work together. We do need a liaison for that committee, and I'd like to ask somebody to suggest
nominations.
and then we need a consensus to appoint that liaison to that committee.
Can we nominate Charlie Blaylock since he lives out there?
You're nominating Charlie? All in favor of Charlie? Charlie, are you willing to accept it?
Jeez, thanks for asking.
I believe you were on that committee to begin with.
Yes, I will.
Before you were elected,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Will you accept, all in favor, consensus?
Do it, I'm fine.
All right, good. All right, thank you. That's it for me. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. as amended?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. On to the item that was moved from the consent agenda was number 3, adoption of budget ordinance amendment to appropriate funds and water tap revenue to cover costs of new installation. Councilman Bach, you asked for that to be removed?
I did. I have several straightforward questions. So Mr. Kelly, if I may ask you directly, this is if there's ever a problem to have, that's a good problem. This is one, because this adjustment is necessitated by growth. Is that correct?
Correct.
So my question then would be, have we adjusted our planning algorithm going forward to anticipate more growth, thereby setting aside more revenue?
Yeah, the budget that's getting ready to come forward in front of you, Steve will turn what the building development was for this year. We will take a look at that and try to streamline it a little bit more. But like you said, this is a good way for it to be instead of the other way.
This is a problem of prosperity, I agree.
Yeah.
Are there any other areas in the budget that will need to be adjusted to reflect the near record number of housing starts, 318, highest since 2004?
Last year, probably around May, we'll look at the wastewater one, just matches this, and see where we need to do with that one. Last year, we had to adjust both of them at the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Do we need to,
We
now we
actually
need to vote on
adopt
that.
it, right?
Motion to approve it,
Motion
yes.
to approve, please.
I'll move to approve this.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we may, well, not may, we would need a motion to suspend the rules to add the peer contract to the agenda.
Oh, it wasn't that, yeah.
And we forgot.
I don't think we
Oh,
did
that's right,
that.
we missed it.
Old business number 2.
I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to add the peer contract to the agenda.
So moved.
I moved.
Motion, please, okay. All in favor? Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
That would be under new old business.
Old business number 2.
No committee appointments tonight. David, you have the floor. You have quite a report tonight, I believe.
Well, we have a few things to talk about. One of them, we're going to talk about some of the pier just in a minute. But luckily, and through the hard work of staff and the engineering firm, we have now received all our permits in hand. Last May, we started this process with National Marine Fisheries, and we've received our notification on December 15th. So that took,
Amazing, that's when they said that we receive it.
took a while for us to get that one. Now the Corps has released us, and CAMA has released us, and we are scheduling meetings for those groups later this week and first of next week. And then the contract amendment will be in front of you. Basically, we have restraints due to our CAMA permit for the turtle season, just as we did for the sand project that we're working on now.
May 1st?
May through to November 15th, yes. We've also got the volunteer information and the Citizens Academy applications online. We have had 11 people sign up for the academy so far, and we take 25 participants is what we try to work into the class. That is the month of February. It's every Tuesday and Thursday through the month of February. So it's a very active group, and we hope to teach them a lot of things about the town and get some involvement and interaction with the whole group. We also have discussed with McAdams Engineering. We have 2 different projects with them that council has approved this year. One of them is the stormwater project behind Town Hall, and the other one is the odor control at Middleton. They both have expirations. They have to have those completed by April 30th. The apparatuses for the Middleton pump station is about completed, built, and is supposedly on a boat and on the way here from Australia, because that's where it was built at. And then once it gets here, they will work on both jobs simultaneously to cut down on mobilization cost. So the odor control and stormwater behind Town Hall should be completed by April 30th.
So help is on the way.
Yes, ma'am. The winter weather, we're still working on issues on that. During this same time, we had a Tyler software update. So we were out of the work order program and nobody could log on to see anybody's accounts or anything like that for the last 2 days. So that's been very interesting, and staff has had to work through that. So I can't tell you the number of work orders or anything that we've had through the storm because we could not track anything.
Oh, wow.
The guys are still out reading meters by hand, and then we'll go in and enter everything into the computer later this week. So-
Wow.
So work continued, even though we were doing the computer software changes. The Wilmington Harbor project, they did not receive any bids on the project, but they are still looking at moving forward. They're still trying to develop some kind of plan for the towns to look at and to see how we can proceed. So we're still trying that as well.
So we still have hope for,
We
so
still
what
have,
you're saying.
we still have hope. The captains, have made their complaints and everything about the depths of the channels and everything in the Wilmington Harbor area. And it is becoming a hazard navigational for them, so I believe something will happen, so. Sort of a
Mr. Kelly,
twofold
I'm
on
not
that.
sure that the council all knew this, what I'm getting ready to say. I'm pretty sure the public didn't realize it either. The Ports Authority Emergency Committee appropriated $2.5 million because Oak Island had appropriated $3 million to bring up sand from the Cape Fear dredging project.
Yeah,
Rare occasion. So when they saw, they were so uplifted and encouraged by what we had done by putting some skin in the game, they said, well, let's help them out and put in $2.5 million. So that took our $3 million and made it $5.5 million, which means we can bring up twice as much sand
Yeah.
as we had hoped, which will take it twice as far down the beach. So when we thought we weren't getting any sand on Oak Island, it was all going to Castle because the budget stopped, we ended up getting from the Ports Authority $2.5 million. Now all we got to do is get somebody to dredge it.
yes.
Right.
We have got,
Right?
we've got to get an interesting party for that.
Yeah, which is a great scenario to have. I mean, who would have ever thought they would do that? But that's how bad the Cape Fear needs dredging. That's how desperate they are.
Correct. We are still working with the county on Lockwood Folly. We have still put a sort of a notice to them that we wanted to have all the communities involved in the next conversation. And we believe that it should be a regional concept, just like we believe that the sand on the beach should be a regional concept as well. So we'll continue to push the county on that as well. And we have a meeting set up with Steve Stone sometime, I think it's the second week in February, to start discussing how they would like to approach Lockwood Folly to the rest of the people. And that's it for today.
Is that it for today?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Been hard at
You
work.
mentioned Veterans Park.
Veterans Park, I think we're around 60% completed. So go by and take a look. We are making progress on that. So yes, sorry about that. So, yes.
Thank you. Brian, do you have anything to report?
Well, we have a closed session, a couple things in there, and we'll get to the pier contract under old business.
Okay. All right, old business, discussion of scheduling a meeting to review the draft DUO. And I think that was initiated by a council member.
It is, it's my issue, thank you, Madam Mayor. At our last session, we talked about using a workshop approach to understanding the UDO. I believe Councilman Weinkauf recommended that, I support that. However, I would like to suggest that we incorporate into our planning process a public meeting with the planning board so that we can have what I would call a macro level discussion of the issues before we go into the details. And I think there are, clearly this is the most important piece of legislation we're going to adopt in quite some time and likely to be so going forward. And I would like to see a public discussion of the large-scale issues involved in the UDO. So, for example, does it accomplish what we want in terms of density, in terms of open space, in terms of the original business community? Does it provide a sustainable tax base and opportunities for that, and so on and so forth? And then proceed to a chapter and verse analysis. That, I think, is important, was not part of Councilman Weinkauf's recommendation initially, but I think it ought to be, and so I move that we incorporate a meeting with the planning board into our process to come to terms with the UDO.
Are you making that a motion?
I am.
Would you put it in form of a motion, please?
I move that we invite the planning board to join us in reviewing the UDO prior to the workshop process.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
I think it would be, especially on my end, if we have a better understanding what's in the UDO before we have a meeting with the planning board.
I would support
Because I don't think all this council's been through this UDO yet to have any kind of determination. And I-
I'll amend to support that.
Right, but I think before we have a meeting with them, we need to have a better understanding of that UDO, because we'll look like dummies going to meet with the planning board not knowing what's in it.
Fair
And
enough.
I'd rather us know what's going on and have our perspective instead of just hearing their perspective. And that way we can have an intelligent conversation with the whole.
I think that's a very sensible amendment. I'll certainly accept that. I, for one, have read it, so I think,
Yeah.
yes, we should read it, and then,
Yeah, I think everybody should.
Actually, at the retreat, which is next week, and
Yeah.
everyone's invited to come, there's going to be a suggestion, hopefully, that each council member will become an expert on one chapter. That works for two reasons. First of all, they study, they learn, they reach out, they talk to whoever they need to do, so when they come back to this table and we have public meetings, someone that's sitting at this table will know exactly every detail in that, whatever chapter they decide to accept or be appointed. Number two is that going forward for the next 2 years, as long as this council's in place, you will have somebody at the table as we look at those ordinances that come in, or there's text changes or any kind of issues with them. There'll be someone at the table that will know it and be an expert on each chapter. That's going to be the suggestion at the retreat. I don't think we need to have a consensus on that tonight, because that was planned to talk at the retreat.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we've all been thinking about, and it has been suggested. So,
No, but you do have a motion on the floor.
do we have a second?
I think he's just.
What, can you restate the motion, John?
I'll try. I move that in our UDO planning process, following a discussion by council, we invite the planning board to join us in a public session.
No, second.
All in favor?
I'm okay with that. So, let's back up a minute. So we're going
We're
to
gonna-
meet and discuss this in the
Yeah,
retreat.
we're gonna read it, we're gonna discuss
before-
it,
okay.
and then we'll set a meeting with the planning board to.
Retreat will be assignments to council members, so you need to look over.
Look at it and see what kind of
To
sections you
adopt,
would like to be.
basically, to take on as your expertise chapter. And then I'm assuming we'll have public meetings. I'm not sure what point you want to meet again with the planning board. That's what
Well, I
she
think
said.
before we go into a public meeting, we do meet with the planning board,
Okay.
so we're all on the same page before we go into a public meeting on it.
Well, and yes.
Is that what you understood, Councilman?
My interest is that before we become molecular on this issue, we understand the big thrust of the plan, and that we have a chance to discuss it with the authors. And then, by all means, pick your favorite chapter. But I think we need to maintain the 30,000-foot view. We need to have a big picture of it, all of us.
But didn't we have a UDO committee
And it's been to the planning board.
and it's been to the planning board, and
Right, but
we've been working on this for what?
we haven't
A year and a half,
been
2
there
years?
yet. We're not there yet.
Right. Okay.
So we got it?
All right. We got it. I got it. I'm ready. I'm rolling.
Okay. Now we are at the pier contract. Here with me. I got to find my, I know I got a thing on that.
You should have a copy of it there in front of you. It's basically the original. I'll start and Brian can hop in.
Because I don't know, I don't see mine.
You can have mine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Basically is the original contract. What it is I was talking about before, with the limitations that the National Marine Fisheries Corps and CAMA has put on us, just like we have on the sand project, we had a break in the action. We're looking at breaking this out into two separate contracts for phase 1 and phase 2.
So phase 1 would be, so the council understand, will be from now until turtle season.
Yes, ma'am.
And that'll be a separate contract, same amount of money, everything's totally the same.
The total dollar amount is the same as it was before.
We're just breaking it up.
Nothing's changed, except the way the contract will be administered. And that'll be broken into two things to match the two phases due to the CAMA restraints that we're being imposed upon. Just as the same thing as we did with the turtle project.
Particularly, it was contemplated, it would have started well before now. We just got the last permit in hand today.
It should have started in October, and we may have not had to break it up.
We had hoped to, according to our engineer, we obtained the last permit today. One of the conditions of that permit was to meet with the Corps. The Corps said they can have up to 30 days to schedule that. But he was successful in getting that meeting scheduled for this Friday.
Good.
But when the contracts when the bids were sought, it was anticipated we would have started much
October.
earlier and possibly be able to finish before turtle season. So,
Right. So you've looked over it,
yes, ma'am.
Brian?
It's the same
It's the
contract.
same thing, it's just breaking it in two parts. Do I have a motion? Entertain a motion to accept the contract?
So moved.
Second, please. All in favor? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who seconded.
Sheila?
She was quiet.
Shocked, aren't you?
New business, discussion of Chapter 32, visitation. And again, Councilman Bach, this is initiated by you, so.
It is?
I'll let you have the floor.
I'd like to discuss briefly what I perceive to be the need to revisit the tree ordinance. I think the scars on our landscape are evident, and everywhere I go, I hear that from folks. Unfortunately, there is no simple solution to this, and I am mindful that council, the planning board, and staff have attempted to tackle this issue in the past. That being said, I believe it is too important as an issue to give up. And I think that there are some new and interesting ideas which are emerging, and my motion is for us to revisit at the staff and planning board level a new tree ordinance. And I think what we have to mediate is the tension between stormwater management requirements, which constrain the ability of developers, our builders, to save trees, and the tree ordinance which we have, which is resulting in virtual clear cutting. Call it what you will, you can just look across the street at 48th Street. There's got to be a better way, I believe there is. The Cape Fear Tree Alliance, the Wilmington Tree Commission have some interesting ideas that they're using, working on a tree canopy concept, planting credits, incentivizing people to replant. I think it's worth another look, and I'll end my preface with that. It's too important to give up. I think we need to go back.
Madam Mayor, I think at our retreat, if I'm not mistaken, Jake's going to bring us something. Aren't you going to bring us something from Belleville, what I asked you to look into?
Yeah, we were going to talk about that on Friday.
Oh, is that Friday? Can we
I
bring
mean, we
that
can
to
do
the
it at the retreat too. Yeah.
But they had an interesting tree ordinance that I had them look into to bring to us to look at and see how they're doing theirs. So,
I have a copy of the Wilmington proposal, so there are some interesting ideas. Not all of them will work here, but some of them are worth considering.
So,
So the gist of the whole thing is that we're gonna look at it,
Yes.
what you wanted us to do.
which we've done all along, we haven't stopped.
We have beat this horse and resurrected him and beat him
even though
again, and beat him
We
again.
beat him and resurrected him,
But
but
none
we've
of
never
us are
stopped
going to
looking
vote
for
against
solutions.
being able to look at it again. I mean, of course, we're not going to
If-
vote
if-
against that.
If Councilman Weinkauf is stating that we're going to revisit this issue, I'm not sure what format we're revisiting it in, I'll withdraw the motion. But what I'm saying is, despite our previous efforts, which have not been efficacious, we need to try again. It's too important.
Yeah.
And if there's a way that, if there's a context in which we're going to try it again, I don't need the motion. But what is the meeting that we're,
I was just saying that
Yeah,
we've never
send it to
stopped
you in the
looking.
wall.
Can we put this on the retreat agenda? Will that,
we'll have something for the retreat to look at.
Yes.
fair enough. I'll withdraw the motion pending that meeting. Thank you.
I'm not sure, Councilman Ball, I wasn't sure that you had made a motion, that's what I was trying to say. Do you want to make a motion? Okay,
I did, but I'll withdraw it.
all right. Entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session to consult with
Yeah,
the
he
town
had already done
attorney
his review of it
on
and
pending
analysis of the
litigation pursuant to NCGS 143-318 11A36.
And 6.
He's got it. You got it now.
All, a second?
What happened to what?
Second.
All in favor?
What happened to
I think that might
like to call town hall meeting back to order. At this time, I'll state that there was no action taken in closed session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Council.